Okay, so good morning to all. Thanks for joining us on what we hope will be a productive session. You may probably already know me, Peter Turner. I'm the IT director at the Diocese of Washington, and we're joined for this training, realm training today by Pamela Swarfield. Pam is a certified realm trainer from ACS Technologies. Pam provides training for many Episcopal parishes and other denominations across the country in realm. So we're happy to have her. And I also want to thank Jennifer Gamba, our special missioner for the School for Christian Faith and Leadership, of which this course is a part. And that's fabulous. And also with the help of Mildred Reyes this morning, our missioner, one of our missioners of the diocese. So thank you, Mildred, for being here and helping. So our hope is today that you'll come away with a sense of the context and purpose in which you can use Realm for your mission objectives in the online space. Some ideas to engage with new members online who may not be currently engaging with, and learning and refreshing some skills or developing some new skills in how to use Realm to engage with new members. So a quick word on the format today. I'm going to start off with what I hope will not be a too boring and brief introduction. And then go through some features and options in Realm to engage with new members and offer some key principles. Pam will do that. We'll then open up for general questions. The session is the first of 3 in what we are calling a Realm refresh series. So please don't be shy about opening up with questions, concerns, uncertainties on Realm, and attending the other sessions that follow this that are on the School for Christian Faith and Leadership page on our edow.org website. A note that we are recording this, and we'll send you out the recording along with follow-up notes and slides after this session. So information on these sessions is available, as I mentioned, on the website. So as we move through, if you do have any questions, post them in the chat. If you have any learnings to share, as you've been using Realm, if you've been using Realm, feel free to post those in the chat as well, for the benefit of others, to maybe things you've picked up on, things you've tried, and so on. So that's just a word on the format. Please try and keep your microphones muted if you can, just to minimize background noise there. So, and then at the end of the questions, we'll unmute and we'll just open the floor. So I'm going to just share some slides with you right now, and hopefully you'll be seeing those on your screen. Quick thumbs up if you can see those. Yep, great. Okay, so as I mentioned, this discussion is designed to be in sync with thoughts you may have on how maybe perhaps extending your church. Now you have been working in the online space, working and worshiping in the online space for some while. And starting to regather in person in a hybrid format or considering regathering. So we may take for granted that our parishioners find us, but there are some interesting trends to look at in church attendance during the pandemic. And so we need to be intentional about stepping beyond just offering what we like and know. And as anyone who's spent time on Instagram or Twitter may know, the internet can be a very unforgiving place to be in terms of fleeting connections. In fact, I wondered as I was typing up some notes that when I typed in our parish, it corrected it to our pariah. And the unfortunate thing is that, of course, it's not what we want, but what we can be if we don't follow some good practices in terms of welcoming new members. So anyway, so a quick pause here to consider something of importance for our overall view of engaging new members in our congregation. Some words from Brady Shearer of the Nucleus Church Project. That we don't want to have continued attrition over time with church hopping, people not returning, engaging less. The new digital practices need to become part of our ministry strategy and to embrace technology in ways we may have been afraid to before. So apps, mobile tech, digital cards, ways to engage a remote audience that we didn't do before, and so on. So to start with a few statistics on church attendance, trends during the 2020 pandemic online attendance, that as a bit of a wake-up call actually. These are kind of interesting interesting statistics. So 30% of church attendants said they would rather worship at home going forward rather than come back to church again. So this may be a blow to our sacramental theology, but one should pay attention to that. Second, 25% of attendants say they may not be back for a long time, and this may be some of our higher risk population concerned about their health. So that's another thing to pay attention to in terms of our online ministry strategy. 30% of those polled were solely attending their pre-pandemic church online. So they may have been showing up regularly before, but this has certainly tested both the location and brand loyalty we assumed we could rely on in our parishioners. And then fourth, 30% are regularly digitally church hopping. So we've got people who not only you know, are attending yours, they're attending other local churches, or perhaps finding other church experiences all over the internet. This means the liturgical structure as we traditionally know it is disrupted. Stopping by for just the sermon, music or songs and so on. So in short, prolonged online church has effectively created behavior that is more consistent with how people use social media in terms of sort of grazing and browsing content. Finally, 32% of people, of those polled, have responded that they stopped altogether. And this doesn't mean that they won't return, but for now they have just stopped attending. And again, this was a broad poll done in July of this year, so a recent poll, but it's does show some fairly interesting trends there as far as things. And so, one of the kind of pivoting now over to from the sort of legacy engagement models that we, if we feel, you know, that we're kind of like, okay, what are the strengths? What do we currently know how to do as far as engaging new members? The traditional ways that we know how to do this are visitor cards, the familiar things, hospitality and door greeters, newcomer brochures and programs, welcome message in the bulletin, banner welcome sign outside the building, and perhaps you know, something on the website, a welcome message on the website. So we're generally following those practices. How good are we at doing this online? And in what ways are we doing it? And so that's kind of like one of the things that we're wanting to do, both learning in Realm, but also thinking about it in the context of our ministry in the church. So let's pivot quickly to from those sort of legacy models that we've been working with, which are not bad and they're good to continue, but what about in the online space? So a few tips here. How can we grow attenders in person and especially online, welcoming new members and staying connected with them? So online and interactive worship, not just online, but interactive worship. So what does that look like in interactive worship? As we consider, in this case, Realm as our data repository, but it means the worship leaders are acknowledging, looking at, listening to, interacting with those in the online space through cameras, as well as those in person. The opening welcome, sermon, prayers of the people, offertory, dismissal, are all opportunities for direct engagement with a remote audience that can easily be built into a service. So using that camera, as well as your in-person attendees. That is just something that going forward is probably something that we all will be living with. But the more that the online audience is acknowledged and recognized and interacted with in the service, the more loyalty that they will feel in terms of staying with your service because they feel a part of it. We're also looking for an appealing and targeting an online presence. This is one where we have thought about who we're wanting to appeal to, the demographic of people who live in our area of our parish, families, young singles, older community members. What does that look like for our parish, and how appealing and targeting is our online presence to them? So our website, social media, or mailings, phone calls, and so on, whatever means they are comfortable with reaching out. If we want to find and attract new members, it can be worth exploring your audience groups and targeted demographics. If you know about Mission Insight, for those of you who have used it, and some news on that, ACS has acquired Mission Insight, and slowly over time, Mission Insight will be incorporated into Realm. That is the plan. So one thing there is some more demographic and analysis features will be available coming into Realm over time. So that'll be an interesting development there in terms of the software. Also effective communications content, active, engaged congregation. So what we find here with, and some other engagement tips here. So small group offerings, effective communications content, active, it leads to an active, engaged congregation. So, and then sharing faith stories and engaging issues intentionally. One thing you see on YouTubers, for example, you'll see that YouTubers ask followers to like, share, and subscribe to their channel. It's how they keep growing and monetize their presence. Churches can gain a foothold using the same techniques, albeit for a somewhat different outcome of attracting new members and growing a new audience. It means intentionally recording and posting content that is not the traditional content, but is content that is engaging to people, whether it's about isolation, aloneness, spiritual issues in their life, something that is outside of the traditional church space, but nevertheless attractive. So we have other sessions on that in the school, and certainly in terms of digital evangelism and mission strategy online. So easy and accessible technology and online giving. This is kind of like where the interface with Realm comes in. So how we can make technology accessible to people and embrace it as part of our, not just our overall church culture, but the online experience. So, let me just move on from that. Okay, so now we're going to shift and narrow this down. I've discussed with you a bit of topic of engagement. That is ways you can promote and attract people to come and perhaps return to your online space and even come back in. But when you get people to your site, your YouTube or Facebook page, what do you do to go further, and how does Realm connect into all of this? So just finishing this off with some tools and ways you can use to connect with potential new audiences. Tailoring a platform and options to what works best for you. So before we start on this, know that there's a few types of tools out there, and it may not be apparent what you're looking at. So firstly, there are things like Google Forms. We're talking here about digital connection and digital connect tools. Now, Google Forms is a simple example of what we would call a digital connection card. So that's like an online visitor card. And you can use any simple, affordable form builder like Cognito, Jotforms, any of those. There are other examples of these out there, but these forms are easy to set up and link up. And then there are digital connect tools, such as these are more like interactive online services that give people at the church the ability to interact by text message, email, and so on. So it depends upon your kind of culture of your church, whether you want which one to invest in. The more traditional one for our parishes would be of the form model. The other ones are somewhat more, perhaps you could say a little more aggressive in terms of the interaction. But the idea here is to think about these are means of, in terms of new members, interacting and engaging initially with online visitors into your online space. And so with your church and sign up for ministries, they have the stay in touch by text or email option. They have the option to integrate with tools like MailChimp. These may work more naturally for some demographic groups than others. And I've included those for you to look at here. So some ideas and resources. There's some resources here for creating a simple Connect card. and also connect cards and a central hub site. So you can have different cards or forms for different purposes. You may just have a welcome one. You may have one to get engaged in particular different ministries. So these links here, which I said we'll share with you, we'll have ideas on creating those cards. So this is a key entry point for, as we're talking about new members and so on, in terms of going, what do those look like? How can I create one? What might it look like for our church? So what's next? Before we dive into the deep dive into Realm, in terms of how Realm can do this, we looked at some tools in terms of what other tools exist outside of Realm, and of course then what is in Realm, we'll see in a second. So one obvious part is that these tools are separate from Realm, as I've said. So you would need to be directed by someone to follow up with them, and then if they were serious, could be entered into Realm by people responsible for your hospitality digital connecting. So your next steps will basically be, if you're following this model of establishing a digital connect card, whatever that is. So there's one way Pam will show you through Realm. We've talked about some others here. Also include a link with your digital connect or digital connection card in all live streaming platforms. That includes Facebook, that includes YouTube, Zoom, and be sure to let people know what it is. Invite them to click. You may be surprised by what you get back. So let people know it's there rather than just posting it. Also, invite people in services for the online audience. Mention that it's there rather than just posting it, as I mentioned. And to click on the link to come on home to their church. They're watching the church. Welcome home. This is your church. Click on the link to stay in touch with us. So for certain places in the live stream, you may want to have a connect card for sending in prayers that form part of the prayers of the people, or just use comments in Facebook and YouTube and so on. Either way, it's about engagement. So including your DCCs on the website and invite people. We are talking about using the same tool here, having that consistency across your different platforms. So whether it's on your website, on your live streaming, recorded streaming, whatever you are using for your worship, including also if you're using Zoom worship, wherever you have people who may be dropping in, new members, it's the easy and quickest way. And as Pam will show you in Realm, you can automate this process of engagement on new members into how Realm works. So now I will stop sharing and I will stop talking, which is probably a relief, and I will hand over to Pam. So let me just stop that. Okay. And Pam. So Pam's going to just now walk through how a scenario in which you can do this through Realm, this process of kind of like how we can engage and do that. A quick question from Kate there. Does Realm have forms? I don't believe Realm has custom forms, at least not at this point. So you can use external forms, but Pam is going to show you a way you can have the kind of idea of digital connecting through Realm, and a one way you can do that. So you can use Realm, or you can use one of these other tools. So Pam, are you ready to?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Are you ready for me to start sharing?
Please go away. Go for it.
Okay. Okay. 1 second here. Start right here. Okay. All right. Let me adjust a couple of things here on my end. Move some things up and out of the way so I can get to what I need to. All right. Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you for spending a little time with Peter and myself this morning. I'm going to talk about some ideas on, as he discussed, using tools built inside Realm to help with this process that he's been discussing with you. So, you know, we all know that we've had our traditional ways of connecting. We've had our connect cards, as mentioned, where people physically came to the building, filled out the cards, and we reacted from there. However, as we know, it's been quite a challenge when everything hit us suddenly to come up with a way to still get out into the community, into the church family, to communicate with everyone, and on top of that, reach out hopefully to some new people. One thing in my experience over the last few months in talking with people from many different churches and even my own, is as the churches have started to put more information out in tools like YouTube and Facebook Live and the various platforms that churches are using to put their information out. One thing that has really surprised me is how many more people are starting to connect in to those churches and even send money in some cases to support ministries of the various churches from not just the local community, but people that are finding these YouTube and Facebook Live churches, watching their services and getting connected in. So it has been a good thing in a way that is bringing many more people in contact with you who may not just be, quote, a local person any longer. This new experience we're living through has brought about the need to come up with different ways of reaching out and connecting and communicating. Instead of the traditional Connect card, we're now looking at digital ways, as Peter has mentioned. He has talked about several different options for creating forms, and I'm just here to share another option. You will each have to decide which option meets the needs for you and for your parish and your staff. But just to show you another idea, with Realm, the beauty of Realm is it can be somewhat all-inclusive, where you're capturing all your data inside one tool, and you're not having to use multiple platforms and then to go try to pull and piece all this data together later. I came up with a scenario, and what I'm about to show you is just one idea. So please understand, this is really not to say yours has to be just like this, just to hopefully get your ideas spinning around in your head of ways that you could use this as an alternative tool for capturing your data within your Connect card world. So what I've done as an idea is we do have a tool already that's called the registration events, which is typically set up and used to get people to register for upcoming events. I've talked with and worked with many churches over the last few months that as they have gradually started opening up and allowing people back into the buildings, they've even created a registration event because they can only allow so many people per service, that they've created registration events for people to sign up and register for which service they wanted to attend. So I'm going to show you a different kind of an idea of using the registration tool. And again, I'm not saying this is going to be for everybody, but this is just to give you another alternative for you to think about. The one positive I will say about doing it this way is you are, again, capturing all your data internally inside one tool. So I spent a little time thinking through how we could use the event registration for that Connect card, for capturing that information for a newcomer to be able to communicate with you their interest in your services, your programs. And so this is a sample, and I did kind of throw it together rather quickly. So if you put more thought into it, you might come up with some even better ideas. So I went in and I created, and I called it Connect card. Now, with a registration event, you're setting up, it's an event that's coming up, and you're setting a specific time of period of registering. And to kind of circumvent that, I've created a Connect card, and I'm going to jump into my past events just to show you what you're able to do. And my idea here is I created a Connect card, and I've dated this Connect card for a particular week period, maybe from a Saturday to a Saturday, Sunday to Sunday, or Sunday to Saturday, or whatever time frame, depending on when your services take place. So I've created a card, and then I've dated it for just a particular period of time. And then what I'm going to be able to do is take this Connect card, and I'm going to be able to copy it from week to week to week to have a fresh card rather than one card that spans a huge period of time. So this way I can capture the people that have come in and registered in a particular time frame. So all you have to do is basically copy it, go in and change some dates for it to become the next week's Connect card. And so I have one already out here for our upcoming week that now you see is dated through September 13th. And just to show you what I did, I'm going to go in and edit it, of course. If any of you have been in REM and created event registration forms, you're going to be very familiar with the concept and the idea here. So I just named the card and a description, because the people that are registering or filling out the Connect card, so to speak, will be able to read the description. So I just dropped in a little description inviting them to share their information with us. This is where you can set that start time and date of your event, like say, to be more of a weekly scenario. Filling out the Connect card, because right now this is a digital virtual Connect card. I set up that it's an online location because, again, it thinks it is a meeting. So there's a few questions here that don't really pertain to it being a Connect card, but I just set up that it's an online meeting. And by the way, if you really were having people register for an online meeting, there is a place to put the link for the online meeting and the passcode if necessary for them to be able to join the meeting. Now, you could even attach a photo, an image of your physical church parish location if you wanted to. Of course, it's visible to everyone. When people will be able to fill out this quote registration card, quote Connect card. Back again, like I said, the period of time is up to you and when your services are. Because this is a Connect card for new people, I didn't choose to share it on my news feed internally inside Realm, because this is not, now you may change your mind and you may say, hey, what, maybe this, we want to include our regular attending people as well and share it on the news feed. But for this example, I didn't choose to do that, assuming these are new people that aren't part of your Realm family yet. I do have a contact person. This is the person that would be receiving the notifications as people go in and fill out the Connect card. So this would be the person that basically would be taking action after seeing that someone has filled out the card. And you can have multiple people doing this. How you want them to fill out these Connect cards, whether you want one person to fill out a Connect card and provide other people's information or not, is totally up to you. I did not set that up in this particular Connect card, just for example today. Then, of course, really just need one registration period, and there will be no cost for this particular event, quote Connect card, so that is set at a zero. We don't have to worry about discounts. We don't have to worry about payment settings and all of that. You do, with this being a registration form, you do have an option of listing various items that you might be willing to send out or give to these individuals with no cost involved, if you would like to do that under this area called additional items. That, you know, if you have some promotional materials that you'd like to offer to be able to get to them, mail them or have somebody drop it by or whatever, you could do that. I didn't set that up in this scenario, but what I did set up was, what are the questions? What is the information you would want this person to provide back to you for you to start reaching out and connecting with them and finding out what their needs are? And I'm going to say not just in getting them connected to the church, but we know how many people are struggling with just the stress of the world that we're living in right now, and maybe, you know, they're just reaching out to you for, you know, just somebody just to talk with and help them know that we are going to get through this and that they're going to be okay. So whatever you want your questions to be, these are just some examples that I created. So first of all, I asked, you know, how did you find us? And I created this as a question, so I can show it to you here. Where they will have choices. how did you find us? They were recommended by a friend. They found you on social media. They found you on the parish website. And then I added an other option as well. And these you can set up with conditional additional questions based on which item they select here. And so under other, you could give them an option of, in this case, I gave them a single line text to type in their own answer after they chose other, so they could be more descriptive in defining how they found you if they would like to. So then we have, let me go on down to my other questions. Are you new to the area? I set that up as just a yes/no question. Would you like to be added to our, quote, email mailing list to receive information about your parish? Yes or no? Would you like to learn more about our programs and activities? And in this scenario, I set up an option for them to be able to select specifically what they might be more interested in as far as the programs and activities that your particular parish offers. So I've added things like the youth program, a newcomer program, exploring your faith, justice and equity issues, just a list of them being able to be very selective in information they would like to get back from you. And then finally, I said, would you like a contact from one of our clergy? It could be that person that's just wanting somebody to talk to reassure them that, you know, life will get back to normal one day and they're going to make it through. And then I added a generic, any additional information you'd like to share with us, and I made that be a text option so that they can literally type in anything that they would like to. So I created my custom questions, and part of the, quote, event registration process is that you can then attach files and or links in the process of them filling out this Connect card that can push them to other information you want to make available. A file could be some type of a document you've created, just additional information about your parish or information on how do we live through this life that we're living through right now, comforting information you want to provide for them, so you can attach additional information that they can retrieve as they fill out the, quote, Connect card, and then even attach links. You could provide a link to your website. I know a lot of the people I've worked with have said that they are receiving monies from people that are watching them online that maybe don't even live in the area. And if you wanted to provide a link, if you do the online giving through Realm, provide a link where they can even connect in and provide a charitable contribution to your parish. So you can create files and links as part of this Connect card. And I'm going to, if you'll bear with me just a second, I'm going to switch over and show you if I can get to it. Sorry about that. Once you've built the Connect card, when you make it available, which you can make it available through, it provides links, and I'll show you those in a minute. But once you have built that Connect card and you have it up and running, I wanted you to see what it would look like from the person filling it out. So I've gone ahead and started one. We've called it our Connect card or whatever you want to call it. There's your description we looked at earlier. This is that contact person if they wanted to reach out to him directly. And then they're basically going to enter their information. And when they hit next, it's going to take them to through the screens. You know, when it says who is attending this event, we know that means that it's the Connect card. Once they get past that, here are those questions that I created. You know, how did you find us? And so they'll choose their option. If they choose other, then they can type in how they found you.
Pam,
are you new?
Sorry, Pam, I'm still seeing the edit screen. I'm not seeing the actual
okay.
Yeah. That might be in a separate window.
Okay, I'm not sure because like I said, let me see if I can do this.
So
where am I?
If it's a separate window, you would need to share that window.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking for. When I went up to share again, Chrome registrant. Let's see if this is
Pam,
it.
you may have to open a tab in Incognito if you want to show them what it looks like not logged in.
Okay, I am sorry. I am not quite sure that I know what I'm doing here because I don't use.
There you go. We see it now.
All right.
Yep, you got it now.
Okay. I apologize. I use GoToMeeting when I do my trainings. I don't use Zoom, so this is a little bit new to me. And for those of you, I apologize. So anyway, here's what the Connect card looked like. How did you find us? If they choose other, then a second box is going to open up for them to identify how they found you. Are you new to the area? Would you like to be added to our email list? Would you like to learn more about our programs and activities? And then this is that list that you created. Would they like a contact from our clergy, a yes or no? And then the information box that they can type in whatever they would like to. Whatever they would like to share. Now, over on the right, where it says next, when they click on that, you'll see the information here, and you'll see additional details that they can even see how they've responded to the card, to the registration, and then they choose register, and that has taken them through the process. Now, through this process, as I mentioned, they would have been able to have access to files and links through the registration process that they would have been able to have a link to your website, a link to your online giving, some documents that you're just making available to all the newcomers that would have been available through the registration process. That once they have completed this, now the idea is you have captured this information, and I'm going to, and again, you may have to help me here if you can't see me. I'm going to jump back to Realm. Now, are you seeing Realm? Are you seeing where it says Edit Connect Card at the top of the page, or do I need to reshare that?
You need to reshare that, and we're still
okay, thank you.
Card, yeah.
Okay, so now you should see it says Edit Connect Card at the top of the screen. Are you all with me?
Yep, you're good.
Okay, great. Okay, so we created the Connect card. We had people starting to use and fill out the Connect card. And then what I wanted to show you is on the back end of that, and I'm trying to get my screen to refresh, you will see whoever's responsible for capturing this information from the Connect card. You will be able to see how many people have registered. And we do have one, the one that has just registered. You'll be able to capture that information from the Connect card internally inside Realm. You'll be able to see who has filled it out. If I click on John Thomas here, I can see all the information and how he has filled out his card. Now, based on how he filled it out, you may feel you want to do some additional follow-up with this person, and that leads into the Connect card having captured the information so that we can now add this person to our RAM database, put them in a pathway, and this is where all of this is going, whether you use our Connect card or somebody else's Connect card, that, another Google form or whatever. Once you have been made aware of their interest in you, then the big piece of this is how you reach out and respond back to that individual based on how they answered these questions and what they're interested in knowing more about, or how they have provided additional information asking for basically your parish to connect with them. So after they have filled out the registration form, if it is someone that you want to really reach out and continue to connect with. I realize there may be some people fill these out and they're just doing it for a laugh or a joke, and you may not feel the need to really reach out any further to them. But for the ones that you seriously want to now stay connected with, then you would be able to choose to add that person into your RAM database. And let me pull up the person, and I went ahead and added him just to save time for this morning. So he filled out the Connect card. We captured some of his information through the Connect card. You've got to decide what information you want to capture. But once I have that information, I can then go add him to my database. And based on how he filled out that Connect card, I want to add him to a pathway that I would have created. And I'm throwing this out as an example, not to say yours would be just like this. You've got to come up with your own plan, your own action for how you want this to work. But we've created a pathway, and I'm able to easily add that individual to that pathway, even at the same time that I added him to the database. So I came in here and I built a pathway. I called it Virtual Newcomer Follow-Up. And I already added him into that pathway. But what I want to show you is I'm going to jump down to Pathways. And this is the new one that I just created right here. Again, just examples of creating this virtual newcomer pathway and the time period you would like people to be processed through, who is going to be responsible for the pathway. And I created a series of steps. Now, one of the things Peter and I talked about this in preparing for the little session today, is the pathway is a great tool. But even beyond putting somebody in a pathway, with the way things are right now, where we really can't go out and visit as much as we would like to and personally connect with people, one of the things that you may want to do, in addition to walking that person through the steps of the pathway, you may even create a virtual newcomer group, those people that are finding you virtually right now, so that after the pathway has been completed, you still want a way to connect with and reach out to all those individuals that found you virtually. So one of the steps in our pathway is that somebody, whoever's responsible, would see that this person gets added to the newcomer group. And beyond that, depending on how they answered their questions, do they want to be added to the mailing list? Did they request a clergy contact? Did they ask for more information about your newcomer program? Did they indicate they wanted more information about studying and exploring your faith? Would they like information about your youth programs, youth services? And definitely just having someone who is the person to do it, reach out and do some type of a welcome contact with that individual based on if they have provided you with email addresses, phone numbers, whatever information you have asked and tried to capture from them as they create their form. So I've created these as what we call unordered steps, meaning no particular order in which they need to get done, although you can create ordered steps, meaning one step gets completed and then they roll into the next step, and it gets completed and then they roll into the next step, depending again on how you would want to use this. Now, I did follow this through with, once somebody has completed this, quote, newcomer pathway for just initial reaching out and connecting with that individual, if they are still connected with you and still interested in you, you may want them to fall directly into another pathway. Just to show you, if you have multiple pathways, you'll have the option of choosing what would be, quote, that next step or that next pathway you might want these people to fall into, just so, again, you don't lose connection with them and you're still connecting with them and walking through with them, hopefully getting them more connected into your church, your parish, you know, being a part of your family, or even if they're remotely living a distance away from you but still wanting to be connected and part of your family, building a pathway to ensure that all that happens. So I've built the pathway, and as you saw, when I pulled up my individual, I was able to drop him immediately into the pathway. I'm going to go back and pull him up again. So I added him to the database, added whatever information I had about him. Again, you may want to go ahead and just drop him into a newcomer group, or that may come later in the process once you find out if they're serious about being connected with you or not, and added him to the pathway. Now, initially, and this is why I say you have to decide how you want to build the pathway or multiple pathways and what's going to work best for you. In this scenario, I just added all the steps into the one pathway, and it initially added him to all those steps. Now, he may not have asked for information about youth programs, or he may not have asked for that clergy contact, but once I have added him into the pathway, I would have the ability for those items that we don't need to be concerned about, just go ahead and remove those items from his pathway. So that what's left, I'm sorry, I did not mean to click that. I was not paying attention to what I was doing. Let's try that again. Okay, hang on a second. Let me get back to John. My fingers aren't working this morning. So I've got him in the path. I did the wrong John. There's our John. Okay, so I've got him in the pathway, and go back down to the steps. So then, as I said, I'm able to remove him from the particular steps that are not applicable to what he's requested specifically. Now, the idea is you were able to, and I'm trying to watch my time here, you were able to connect someone to be responsible for doing each of these steps. It could be a different person, it could be the same person, but when he was assigned to the steps in this pathway, these individuals that we call our step leaders, the person responsible for doing the welcome team contact, the person responsible for the invitation to the lunch, and this is a different pathway than the one I created, but you get the idea. The step leaders will be the person responsible for seeing that the work gets done. So once he got put into their steps through Realm, and again, this is the purpose of keeping everything internal in one tool, these step leaders were able to receive notification that someone had been put into their step so that they knew to take action with that individual based on what the step was all about. So as they go through and take action and complete those steps, then in the pathway area, we're now tracking historical data, and we're tracking the people that have been in the pathway in the past participants. And I'm going to pull up one that definitely has some people in it so I can show you this too better. So I'm able to look at my pathway today and see who are in the steps of my pathway today, but at the same time, for that historical data tracking, I'm able to look and see people that have been in this pathway in the past. And again, based on various date ranges of a month, a week, a year, 7 days or whatever, a quarter's worth of time, I'm able to capture this information internally inside Realm. And as I said, they could potentially complete my, if I click on the right button, they could potentially complete my virtual newcomer follow-up, and that dropped them immediately into my Finding Your Place pathway. That again, now they've started the process all over again in a different pathway. And you have people currently in it, and then you have the people that have processed through the pathway based on the date range that you're looking to find. So the concept is they're not falling through the crack. They're not reaching out to you, and you don't have a process in place that you're reaching out and connecting back to them. Peter also mentioned a big important part of this is making sure that you've got standard branded information available through your digital services, through your website, through your Facebook, through whatever means you have of reaching out and connecting with people. You're pushing them from wherever they're finding you to the process of getting started, reaching out to you and connecting with you through some type of a connect card, which could be through Realm or not. But then once you have captured that information, adding them to your database, using your pathways to make sure you are reaching out and meeting their needs, possibly adding them to a virtual newcomer group for an ongoing, continuing process, whatever that might be. But you're capturing all that information historically, internally, inside Realm, that you have this information available to all of the staff and any of your lay leaders. I do want to mention briefly, and then Peter, I'm going to see if we do have any questions. I've had to run through this very quickly because there's just not that much time in about a 30-minute presentation to show you everything. I've run through it very quickly, just kind of the general highlights of using Realm as the tool for capturing this information. But I do want to make all of you aware that, and Peter kind of mentioned this too, ACS as a company is trying to provide you with the tools to help you do your ministries and your programs, but they have even gone beyond that in the last several months of understanding where all of you are in the process of just how do we continue to do church as normal? How do we continue to meet and minister to our family, church family, and definitely reach out to those newcomers? So I want to point, as I have a few minutes left, let's see if I can get to it. There's an icon, and I'm going to have to move Peter out of the way. There's an icon at the top right-hand side of your screen when you're logged into Realm, and the symbol, if you can make it out, is an owl. And if you click on that, it will take you into an area called Ministry Smart. Now, Ministry Smart is a fabulous place, even if it has nothing to do with what we're talking about today, but just learning how to use Realm more effectively inside your parish, this is the place to go. Because what you find here is many, many tutorials, some that have recorded in the past, some that are coming up in the future. But as a company, they have really focused on helping you right now. How do we navigate this new normal? So they have provided many, many training resources for hoping to meet the needs of where you are right now. The same thing similar to what Peter pointed out, the struggles that you're going through. You'll notice there's a click here. How do you navigate the new normal? You will notice that there are some already recorded webinars that you can go back and watch. There are some that are coming up in the future that you can register to attend. So I just wanted to point out there's so many resources in here beyond just how do I click a button in a piece of software or an application to work. It's more than just that. It's how do we as the church family reach out to our members and our communities and even people outside of our cities that we live in? How do we be that impact? So I want to encourage all of you that there's many, many videos in here that you might be interested in taking a look at, like how to be the salt and light virtually, which is what we're trying to do right now. Live streaming for churches and long-range planning, especially with the type of situation we're in, we need to rethink our long-range planning, but there's so much in here, engaging ministries, measuring virtual engagement. So definitely wanted to make sure you are aware that there are resources available to you through Realm, not just, oh, this is a database and how do we track our data, but so much more than that. And then finally, just to recap all of this, some takeaways from this session, and again, I know we're getting short on time, but the big picture ideas is, first of all, determine your process of identifying your newcomers and your follow-up connections to be accomplished with those newcomers. And then develop a simple method for these interested newcomers to connect with you, possibly using the Realm registration form or some other type of form, whatever you decide to go with. But then you need to have your plan in place for how you will reach back out and respond to these newcomer requests. And it's not just, hey, Bob, this person's wanting to know more about the children's ministry, but having a plan in place that you have some accountability as well to know that as you asked Bob to reach out on the back end through Realm, that connection did happen, and Bob may even provide additional information at that time for whatever that next step needs to be. So having your plan in place for how you will respond to your newcomer request, and then continually providing that standardized branded information available through your meetings, through your resources, through your Facebook Live, through your YouTubes, through your website, to provide links that these people can click on, easily accessible, easy for them to use and operate, that lets them connect back to you and reach out to you and tell you what their needs are and what they're looking for and how you might help in those needs. And then finally, utilize the resources through Ministry Smart, which is what we are looking at here. There's been a lot of time and effort put into these webinars because ACS is a company. Yeah, they are a company, they are a business, but they are about ministry. They want to support the local churches and parishes and be there for you to assist you through this process. So that's kind of wrapping up what I wanted to share with you this morning. And so, Peter, I'm going to toss it back to you and see if there were any questions that came in.
Sure. Jane, you had a question about notifications on these steps in Pathways as you assign people to Pathways. Do you just want to go ahead and unmute and ask the question? Just unmute first.
Oh, okay. You have ordered steps and you have unordered steps. So maybe some of the unordered steps are optional, and then
yes, they can be.
And then when people complete the each of those steps, is there a notification when each of the steps is completed, or just when you're ready to go on? I think there must be, right? Because they could be operated by different people.
There are notifications happening through the process of pushing them through the pathway. The step leaders get notified up front when somebody's been put into their step. So you have the step leaders, and then you have the pathway leader, who's the overseer of the entire pathway. And they're able to drill down and look at the big picture of how many people have been in a particular step or currently in a step, how many are overdue, so that that person can kind of stay on top of the step leaders and make sure that they're getting the job done in the time frame that you want.
Okay, thank you.
One question.
And Rebecca, I'm going to say, Rebecca, if you're still on here and you have anything to add as well, please do.
Yes, I'm on here. You're right. For Pathways, step leaders are notified as soon as someone is added into a step that they're responsible for. Pathway leaders are also notified, so they know when someone's been added, so they can start doing the follow-up.
And so I think this is to add to that. What Rebecca just said also, I think this is a great opportunity to integrate your groups feature as well into this process. So you have newcomers or visitors who are interested in a particular thing, and to quickly drop them into a group of, if they're interested in that, to drop them into a group and say they want to be connected to others in your parish who may be, that may be your newcomers group. That's a quick way of connecting those people with others who are also newcomers in a program, and then use that group with whoever you designate as group leaders or group facilitators. Pam, Rebecca, it strikes me one thing that in terms of not all being kind of on one person's shoulders, on the rector's shoulders, to do all this, or the administrator, like to be able to share this responsibility around a bit in Realm for these kind of functions. Is there, do you know, in Ministry Smart training for like volunteers to get them up to speed on you know, how, for example, as you get the Connect cards in, Connect card information in, whatever process you use, on, you know, how you would use, for example, this process of pathways and groups and so on?
Yes, there definitely is. There are some recorded webinars. Like Pam showed you, we are, over the last probably 4 months, we have been all about the new things that we're all dealing with and how can we help you use Realm, as well as just think through processes of, making sure you are able to touch out to those newcomers. So when you're in the Ministry Smart, you can search or you can go to the catalog and choose the Ministry Impact. You could search on newcomers. So there are, I'm thinking off the top of my head, I know there are a couple that definitely address, how to reach out to them in this online world that we're in. So definitely there are some resources in there to help you with that. Whether it's a digital Connect card or whether it's using the registration event or whether it's using a group event where you're linking to your digital card that you have set up, all of those are covered in some of those webinars that were done. And this month, we are all about volunteer management and how you schedule and do all that. But to go back to the pathways and Connect cards, definitely there are some webinars in there to just kind of walk you through the whole process of using Realm to do that. Understanding that sometimes it does make more sense to have the form outside, but then how do you get that information into Realm so you can start reaching out to them?
Sheila, ask away.
This may be a stupid question, but I'm sitting here thinking of that I've got 3 or 4 parishioners who not only don't have computers, but don't have internet. And we've been sort of struggling with how to keep connected to these folks. And I do a weekly constant contact email, and I have noticed that during the pandemic, open rates have been higher. On the other hand, our Zoom worship and the YouTube stuff have diminished over time. I'm just keenly aware, and I have a number of people in my head right this minute who are grieving, right? The older folks grieving. They don't know how to use electronic media. They don't care about it. Your great generation people are still kind of hobbling in and standing at my door kind of thing. So I'm just wondering, I assume there's a way with this that I could, let's say, do a pastoral call of some sort and then log that information onto Realm. I still have people literally stopping by to put their pledges in the mailbox. That kind of thing. They're not doing the Realm. More people are doing Realm, no question. They're getting on board, but it just seems to me this is sort of a two-pronged thing. And, can anybody address that? Because it's like, we cannot be stuck in the church as it was, but a lot of people are going to be really reluctant to move forward like this.
Jen?
I'm not, but others are. And
Jennifer, you've got your hand up there. Do you have some thoughts on that to share?
Sure. I was just going to share, Sheila, this is one way, one thing we've tried that's worked very well. I've used Pathways, I think not in a way that they were intended, but it's worked all right. I used Pathways to create an enormous phone tree. So we've been checking in pastorally, and we have a special group of people who are getting a weekly call, check-in call. If they want it, they had to agree to it, but we identified parishioners we were concerned about. And they're in a pathway and they get a weekly call. They have a one-on-one with somebody, and we have, something like 30 callers who check in with these folks who they might not have internet. They might just be people who are in a difficult place, but they're getting regular calls on a weekly basis. And then we created a pathway where we had over 40 callers call basically everybody in the parishioner and parish initially, and I used Pathways for it. So every caller was assigned a pathway with 20 people to call. And I know that's not how Pathways were designed, but it was the easiest way to.
What you're describing
As a trainer, I have heard many, many churches doing exactly the same thing, using Pathways as the tool to make sure that they're reaching out and connecting with every parishioner, every church member in their church family.
Thank you. That is really helpful. Thank you.
And the other key thing there is that within Pathways, and that's why I chose to use it, you can put in private notes. So if there's something that you need to put in there, Jane is a widow and she's, grieving and whatever, you can put those notes in, and that's captured so that if the clergy go in and look, they can see information that was gathered on that phone call or whatever. So that's been very helpful.
Thank you. That's really helpful because I just, yeah.
Sorry, for some reason I just lost Zoom completely. So I'm sure Pam picked it up from me.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Rebecca, what did you say?
I said I just lost Zoom completely, just totally disconnected me. Took me a while to get back in, but I'm sure you took it from what I had started about how people are using Pathways and even notes to record,
Right.
Reaching out to their parishioners by phone. We hear this a lot as we're talking to churches that, it's just still the way. And sometimes it definitely is the way if they're dealing with grief, is to reach out to them by phone and then record that by notes or, even in Pathways.
Rebecca, you mentioned
Right.
something about custom forms potentially as a thing that you're hearing requests for, and having a link or something where we can sort of request that as a feature request.
Yes, I don't know when that's coming, but it definitely has dialed up, especially, during this time. And we know that the new normal is going to carry on in for quite a while. So I do have a list of everyone that's in the meeting here today. So I will make sure that I add you guys to that request. It's under product management. They're researching now to figure out how we would add that in to Realm. Understanding that, the digital connect card, you need to be able to control some of the questions that are asked, but then be able to add that profile and get them in so you can start following up with them. So yes, we definitely have that on a research project right now in product management.
I'm sure, I can believe many are asking for that. There was a question
Yes.
also on the delivery of the integration with, say, Constant Contact, MailChimp, and that kind of thing in terms of the kind of like connecting the two. I believe that's coming, right?
Yes, it is. I'm not sure if it's still scheduled for Q4 of 2020 this year, or if it's now in the first quarter of 2021. We're in September now, and some of that, like the integration with Constant Contact, MailChimp, did get pushed back a little because we went back and added some things and wanted to address some things that we could add to help all of you during this time. One of them being the ability to have an online meeting link in a group event, and now also have that in a registration event, along with some other things that we decided, or product management decided we needed to bump up and get done. But it definitely is still planned to do integration with MailChimp and Constant Contact. I'm looking forward to seeing what that really means, because integration, can be different as far as what we expect. So it'll be interesting to see what they end up doing with that, but definitely that is planned. Yes.
Okay, good. And Kate, I just saw a question from you about getting people to connect. Why don't you just unmute and just let us hear that?
Yeah, so that's been the challenge all along. We did the sending out of all the invites, and the majority never got returned. And when I asked the people some were bad email addresses, but a lot were not. So that's just been very challenging. And then we have a small system, and I haven't had the time to just bear down on it and get it done. Because I think I've been on phone with Realm several times, and then I get onto something else, and I lose what I learned. But I think what's going to have to happen is that I'm going to have to take the security off for a period of time. And I was going to do this in church on a Sunday around in March sometime this year. So that didn't happen. Let's just do it at coffee hour. I was going to really do a push at coffee hour. So now it's going to have to be a different kind of push. But And even with the registration, we've been using the event registration for the few outdoor in-person services we've had. And it's not, I don't then know how to send an email from that registration to the person saying, could you finish your profile? So just the whole getting people to do profiles has been really challenging.
Well, we have some upcoming sessions as well, Kate. You've probably seen managing in-person worship and attendance. So we'll be sort of doing a deeper dive into that. That's on September 17th at 10. If you go to the School for Christian Faith and Leadership page, we have all the offerings for the school under that, and the Realm Refreshes courses are under that, as well as one on October 1st on coordinating lay leaders for worship and parish life. So that's kind of diving into that as well. So what I'd recommend also for everyone actually is, if you have lay leaders who are interested in being involved, other volunteers are being involved, like register them for the session as well, and like loop them in on these, because the more information the better. As people learn, and you want to kind of get greater bandwidth, like you don't want to get too burned out, like, the more help you can get with this, so that those could be helpful for that. So so I think that's the website is just edow.org, and under the Discipleship and Leadership menu, the School for Christian Faith and Leadership is right there. So that's how you can find that information. Jennifer Gamba, who's on in the session today, is our special missioner for the school. So and is doing an absolutely wonderful job on that, and just posted the link in the chat. Jennifer, you actually had your hand up. Did you have something to add?
I mentioned it just in that. Thank you for everyone for coming, and Peter and Pam, what a wonderful presentation. Thank you, very informative. I wanted to just follow up on Sheila, a question about connecting with people who are not digitally connected, right? And I was on a very helpful session through another organization where someone talked about how they burn CDs. They take their recorded worship and they burn a CD and mail it out along with a Bible study. And that's been popular there. I know that's an extra step for people to do, and I don't have a CD burner any longer. A lot of my devices don't even take CDs, but my 80-year-old mother loves CDs, and she will play CDs. We try to get her on Spotify, for instance, for audio, and she's like, I like my CDs. So just doing that, she still has a DVD player for her computer, and so that's probably her television, and she's probably not alone. So I think one way that you all can help me do my work is, if there are things like capacities like how to burn a CD so it plays in a DVD player, I'm happy to, if you need that kind of help, I'm happy to create like a toolkit that will take people back through that. But just reach out to me so I know that it will be something that would be welcomed and helpful. But yes, there's a suite of offerings, and please check them out. Equipping small group leaders will start in 2 weeks, and we had one last night on welcoming belonging in the digital world, which you needed to have registered ahead of time. But I'm happy to add you myself if you want to join us next Wednesday, and I'll send you the recording so you can get up to speed. It's good to be with you. And thank you for coming. And Kate here is leading a wonderful one on story sharing and about evangelism. So I'm really looking forward to that one. Starts in October.
So everyone do check those out. There's some great stuff in there, and Jennifer's putting a lot together. So check those out, and do encourage others as well. People who you'd like to get connected into Realm as we explore other ways in our current way of, new way, I should say, of being a church, in both in-person and remote. This is both a challenging but exciting time as well. It's it's burdensome, but there's also new ways of doing the church that we never imagined we'd be doing at the start of the year. So, but here we are anyway. So in another Zoom meeting. But anyway, I am so glad to see you all. Thank you for participating today. This was great, lots of sharing. And as I mentioned, the next session is on, for this, at least for this track, is on September the 17th at 10. And then October the 1st also at 10. So we're being consistent with our 10s there. So feel free to sign up, and let others in the parish know who you may want to kind of loop in, people you want to help manage, volunteers, for example, help you out, like assisting with that, get them into the session, have them sign up, and they can like learn about these things too. So feel free to do that. So thank you, everyone. Again, we'll be sending out after this session, we'll have some notes, some recording the session, and we'll share the slides so you have those available. Thank you again. You all are wonderful. Love the work you do. It's just fantastic. Thank you for being here. We'll hopefully see you next time. And in the meantime, God bless you in your ministry.
Thank you, Peter.